Okay, $1 million question. Is Spurr going to pop or is it going to settle down? This will be the Alaska Volcano Observatory. Matt Haney's going to be speaking, and I would like to speak with him and have sort of communicated a bit, but I think he probably thinks I'm crazy. Now, listen to what he has to say.
Mount Spurr, it's the volcano in Alaska that's closest to Anchorage. We've been observing signs of unrest at Mount Spurr. So it began about April of last year. Those signs of unrest are indicating that there has been a magma intrusion beneath the volcano.
All right, the colors of the pool in here change and the gaseous emissions change. Those are what I'd like to know about, first of all.
It's uncertain whether this unrest will lead to an eruption. We discussed at the Volcano Observatory last week extensively, and we put the odds of this unrest at the volcano leading to an eruption at about 50%, or equally likely to the unrest not leading to an eruption. We have 11 seismic stations remote that operate on the slopes of the volcano, and we're looking for a signal that we call volcanic tremor, which is unlike little earthquakes we've been measuring, lately every day, up to hundreds of little earthquakes. It's more of just a continuous shaking of the ground that can go on for minutes or 10 minutes or even longer. So if we were to see volcanic tremor, then that would be a clear indication that the unrest is progressing further.
Okay. That's what we're looking at. Will it erupt or won't it? And there's two systems going on here. There's Spurr and this way, and there's the Aleutian Islands and that way. That's what we're going to see shortly. Okay, during all this shaking and so forth up at Spurr, Atka volcano just erupted just a few days ago. So I think this whole tube may be pressurized. All right, this is the Aleutian chain. Every one of these is an active volcano, active right now. And that Atka is somewhere out in here. They're all over the place, a zillion of them. Okay, this is for the Alaska Volcano Observatory. There is volcanic activity throughout the entire Aleutian chain. You see these? And these are calderas. These are round, and some of them are pretty good size, and they erupt pretty well. One of them just erupted the other day out here as I was trying to make communications with Matt Haney, who had agreed to talk to me. We never did talk, and I think it's because of what I'm claiming is a possibility here. Now, Anchorage is over here. Mount Spurr is right there. They are having all kinds of rumbling up here, but at the same time, and these are shallow though, at the same time, one of these volcanoes went off out here at exactly the same time I was communicating with. This was a week or two ago. And I had originally thought Spurr was going to pop, no question whatsoever. And then when that popped out here, and I started looking into the Aleutian chain, every one of these is a volcano, and I know why. And we need to get the chemistry of what these volcanic gases are to see what created them. And I'm going to tell you, I understand what happens. And phosphorus is being converted to sulfur in certain types of materials. And I'm going to explain this in great detail. But what I want to show you is Spurr may not erupt. It may be that this is the area that is absorbing the expansion, and it's shooting down here because this is all one big tube that runs down here, and it pops every here and there. And these are the series of four, the island of four in here that are the most explosive. Now, hold on.
The expanse of Alaska, a hidden force of nature may be lurking, one so vast and powerful that its awakening could reshape our planet. The Aleutian Arc, already notorious for its fiery volcanic activity and frequent earthquakes, might conceal one of Earth's most catastrophic secrets, a supervolcano. National Geographic reports that a group of volcanoes in the Aleutian Islands has all the makings of potentially being part of one big supervolcano around the same size as the massive Yellowstone caldera.
Okay, let's talk about this. I have information on both. All right, this is really interesting. I have some very, very good shots here. This, when you see these colored things, they indicate something's different, whether there's some mountains there or whatever. But it's coming all the way down here, and we know about this little pincher squirting that stuff out right there. I believe that's what he squirted out. I'm telling you, that is biology, and that was a scorpion pincher right there. It folded right back into here, right on that pin. The whole thing would fold back, and then now watch this. I got it running way, way, way slow. They're showing that there's going to be huge rattling in the earth. I could put on the closed captions. Hotspots for volcanism, seismic activity. This was what I thought was really cool. They're showing all the active volcanoes and seismic activity. Well, seismic activity. I don't know if these are all volcanoes, but they're seismic activity. Now, hold on a second. All right, well, these are all numerous earthquakes. What does that specifically mean? An earthquake is a collapsing of the surface or the explosion of the surface. It works both ways. And I'm going to have to dig into this map pretty good. I have never seen this illustration before of how much activity there is and where it does occur. And I understand most of this. And I think I understand this. That's the thing. And of course, there's Yellowstone, which I'll show you that too. They just did a big survey on that. And they found there's a basaltic melt, there's rhyolithic melt, and so forth. And I can show you that. And again, it relates to a creature. You know, pay attention to this. You don't see as many earthquakes up here, or up in this latitude up here, or this, you know, way up here, or down even here, even in Australia, for some reason. But as you get lower and lower and lower in the around the bottom of the globe and to the top of the globe, it's more frozen, so you don't get the earthquakes. They're not collapsing. The ground's not collapsing like it is right on the equatorial, where the most heat gets in. Up at the poles, they just barely spinning around, you know, very slowly, compared to the rest of the earth is just scrubbing like crazy. And this is where you get all your heat. And this is where you're getting all your collapses. It's starting to make a lot of sense. And as this thaws out, we're going to get a lot more activity. And this right here is where we're going to get a lot of activity. And that could be a supervolcano. I mean, a major one. That whole thing is one big system. How plugged up it gets, how quick it unfolds, I don't know. But one just went off as I was communicating with the USGS about Mount Spurr. I'd like to know what the gases are. I understand it's sulfur and so forth, where that comes from. But what's coming out of Mount Spurr, that's of interest. And why the lake colors change from what color to what color, that's also of interest, because they're the transition metals coming from somewhere, and sometimes that indicates a secretion, which indicates getting ready to have some kind of biological thing happen. We need to look into this. You can't just turn your back on it and say this isn't true, it's never going to happen. It is true, and it will happen, and we're just not prepared for it because we're afraid to look at it. But you can see the body creatures up here haven't melted quick enough, except Blood Falls is gushing blood out of there, and things are starting to grow. Well, let me show you this. These are balls growing up in Alaska, up in here now, because they're thawing out, and they're part of the biology that covered the surface of this creature's body. Okay, I know this is going to sound extremely outrageous, but pay attention. You see these spots up at the top? These little hair stubbles coming out of here. And these are literally hairs. And the red and the black means it was a oxygenated creature. Red blood and black is the two states of oxygen used, and still has that. Now, the white stuff is from a floppy sort of area where it's not, it allows the hairs to do all this sort of stuff because it's soft. Now, this is Crowley Lake. All right, and that's coming from above the top, looking down, it's sticking up through here. Well, where is Crowley Lake in relation to what I'm going to call Scorp-Zilla? Well, Crowley Lake is right here. And this is Scorp-Zilla's head. This is all his head, abrupt transition all around here. This is his eyeball. This is his eyebrows. You see this? That's his eyebrows. Right above his eye. And he follows all the way up the west coast, past Alaska. All right, you see this? That's it's not just little hills and valleys. Now, so here's his eyeball. That's probably where the little sweat stuff comes out of his eyeball, the little gooey stuff you get every now and then. Now, he goes all the way up. There's his head, here's his shoulders. And he goes all the way up past Alaska to the Aleutian chain. Here's his head. Follow me up. There's his neck, comes back. Here's his shoulders, comes over. Let me use my little pointer. Head, and there's his beard. Remember, his beard, Crowley Lake. Nobody can explain that. This is a beard. His neck comes all the way up. And you see the different colors. The green is sort of where some of the bloody stuff has run off, and it makes a nice green color. Same thing here, all the way up. And he's kind of high up here because he's sticking up in the air. He's just laying there dead. All the way around here, all the way around, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up to here. And in the middle is this. And you say, well, Roger, what is that? Well, I said, well, I'll show you what that is. Just hold your horses. Don't push the limit here, my friends. We will get there. Okay, my friends, I always defer to Typhon in the desert in Morocco. You can't miss him, and you can't miss Scorp-Zilla either. Now, his body runs up, as I have just shown you, up to here where he poops. And this is the region where he poops, is up in here by Mount Spurr. Right there. Now, that's Mount Spurr right here. And it poops and it comes right down there. And I'm telling you, this is a digestive system. I'm just what it is. You see all these things coming into that? You see all that stuff? That's filtering down into the bowels of the beast, literally. This is the fluid part coming down, and these are the sphincter muscle. I'll show you, I'll turn it around, it'll make a little more sense. This is where Spurr poops right out of here, and it comes down here. And that is literally poop. I think we could even test it. Now, you see this? This is biology feeding this system. That's not just an accidental runoff of this and that. I mean, it's just not. The problem is that we're never going to get anywhere with any of these issues until we start to say, let's look at this for really what it is. That is biology, my friends. That is not just runoff of little rivulets of this and rivulets of that. All of these little colors, too, have meaning. That's why I'd like to know the chemistry of the vapors and so forth that are coming out. But if you look at this, this is not, you know, you'd have to be kind of a silly person to say, oh, Roger, you're just seeing things that's just not right. Look at the green here. This is digestive type of growth. Now, why is it so green now? Has it been that green right along? If it's getting greener and greener, it means it's getting warmer and warmer, because as things warm up, they grow better. But all of this stuff here, you see all these colors and things, is that feeding spur or is that feeding the tail? And I think it's feeding the tail. Now, the eruptions are happening in the north of it. Let's turn things around so that we get it right. Okay, we have two extremely intriguing possibilities. Spur is up here, and they're having a lot of tremor activity, shallow, right in this area here, is my takeaway from this so far, not being informed and in the loop. As much as I can glean from this, there is shallow, a lot of earthquakes right in this area, the tremors. And I believe there's some kind of emissions coming out, and I believe the puddle in the middle of the caldera there is changing colors, smoking, whatever. Now, I also know that there was a kind of a pretty good eruption out here in the Aleutian chain. Now, what is happening here, I don't know. They have monitors all through these, because this is an extremely, just gigantic, absolutely enormous volcanic system. It's one huge tube. It has to be, if it's what I think it is, and I know it is what I think it is, because it comes out and it services Scorp-Zilla's pincher. It has to be one tube, and it has to have created some very, very noxious chemistry and still have fleshy stuff around it, which the noxious chemistry will invade if it warms up, and then it will become extremely explosive. Let me explain to you what my take is of the tail of Scorp-Zilla. All right, so we got Scorpy here. He's laying here. He's just, he's laying there. Now, up here, you see the height of what we're looking at here. It just drops right off, because this is his body. Up here, we're looking at minus 50 meters, right? 50 meters deep. Over here, it's 4,900 meters deep. 5,000 meters deep right there. All the way down here is 5,000, 5,000, all the way around. That's how the 5,000 up here at the top of his body, 180. It's 5,000 meters. This is a mile tall coming up the side of his pincher. This right here, this tube, and it's in the middle of his pincher. His tube runs right out. You see that right here? This is where all the activity appears to be in these spots here. For some reason, they're raised up a little higher. It's 68 meters above, and this is 98 meters below. So it crests up to here. Now, it comes all the way around. This is his tail. Now here's the pincher, squirter, injector, I don't care what you call it. Everybody's, oh no, that's a this, it's a that. Well, whatever it is jab somebody with some deadly, deadly, nasty fluids. And in this particular case, when Scorp-Zilla died, this pincher injected out like it would have if it was going to jab somebody. And what it did, right through this tube, right down through this tube, right down through the tube, all the way down through the tube, right down to that injector, which is very, very sharp, pointed, and extremely dangerous. Bam! In this case, there was nothing to whack into. Normally, that thing would have been stuck into somebody's body, squirting juice into it to probably dissolve it. I don't know. What happened here? It came out, all that squirt. You can see it. You got to follow it. Just pay attention to the details. Came out here, and it hit here. Now, a little bit of it kept going, as gravity does, and some of it just kept squirting down this way. Because this would be opposed by this, pushing this down that way. And whatever this is, that would have been the stuff that he would have been squirting out of his injector. Now, how would that injector work? Well, it would have been pocketed right in here. So let's pay attention to the details once again. Just do a little engineering in your mind. We know that's the injector. Just take it for granted that's the injector. We can see this little ridge is quite obvious to me, would be the source of the injection fluid. Now this right here, I think is a muscle. I think this stuff is muscle. Or some kind of tendon. Let's sink in for a minute. But what that does, it gives it a wrinkle. Give it a second to settle in. You see this? You see all this little stuff here? I believe that's a muscle, and that can pull or wrinkle this way. It's one or the other, and I think it might be this way, and it pulls in. Now, let's back out of here. Don't forget, this is coming down from the side of the pincher right here. The same sort of stuff over here too. It's all basically the same. It's a fiber. So what does that do? This is my interpretation. This would go just like that, which means that would stretch. So think about it this way. That goes back. That means this stuff here has to stretch, and that's why it's all pocketed the way it is. This would be the pin. All right, so this rocks back this way. So now the pincher is over here. And this wrinkle zone here is where the pin and this would go right back into here. The pin stays where it is. That's anchored there. But this is wrinkly because that's where this would settle back in its retracted form. All right, pay attention and think about it for a minute. Very simple to see. Now this is, again, the tube that brings down that nasty stuff. Now somewhere along here, it transitions under or whatever to get down to the squirter, injector, pincher, jabber, destroyer, venomizer. And then it would have squirted out into the guy's body or whatever he was attacking. And that's what would have come out into somebody's body. That's my interpretation of this. So, where would his pooper be? Well, it would be right where Mount Spurr is, because it is having poop come out of there. I'm just saying, it is what it is. It's not my fault. It's just there. And my name is Spurr, but you know, they always used to call me a rectum, not really by that exact word, but I think they might have been referring to this. I always thought they were talking about me, but maybe they were. You see this? This is where his tail wrinkles out. So it must have been, this kind of stuff would give him a little bit of play in his tail. You see all these things here? And that right there is where his body, his body's got to be gigantic. It's got to be all over this area here somewhere. I don't know where it ends, but you know, the height here is 57 meters below, 90 meters below, 95, 114. And then you go down to here and it's 3,288. It had to fall off because his body's here. It's 71 meters here. His body's got to be this whole thing. All this whole area. And his tail had to be able to flip somehow. I don't know where his body would end. I don't know where his body would end. I have to be honest with you, no clue. But it has to be huge. And this whole area up in here is the digestive system, and then it also makes the venom that comes out here. Is the venom the issue, or is it the digestive system? Let's dig in a little deeper. All right, still Scorp-Zilla, and he comes out. This time it's upside down. Going down that way is California. So here's his Scorp-Zilla pincher way out here. We're going to go right down here. All of this, my claim, this entire tube is filled with venom. Venom is highly toxic, erosive, corrosive, invasive, destructive, and will give off a lot of toxic gases and noxious stuff, and it is the source of major erosion and explosion. And that's why this is 100% volcanoes, 100%, all the way back up to here. And then you got Mount Spurr. Now Mount Spurr is the product of digestion, basically. It's the digestive system, the anus and all of that right there in that one spot. It's the cloaca. And it's separate, I believe, from this. And this one just erupted, and I believe this may be what's getting ready to really pop. And if this pops, I don't know. But I wonder what they're seeing out here. I'd like to know what they're getting, because I know I think they're monitoring. They should be. And anyway, let me show you a couple quick shots of my thoughts, and then we're going to go deep into what we can see. All right, what you're seeing here, you see these little triangles? They mean they're Holocene volcanoes. Well, what does that mean? That means they're active right now. So they're just active volcanoes within this geological time frame. And look at them. There's about 20 or 30 of them right there. All the way down, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And then you get up in here to where Mount Spurr is. These, they're showing the size of the caldera sizes, the caldera area, which is the core. And up here, I don't know why they're not showing Spur, but it's right in this area. Now, all of these are the Aleutian chain volcanic arc. And I believe this is the source of the explosive, or it's going to be at one point or another. As soon as it gets warming up, I'd like to know if the temperature increase in this, how much it increased, because that's going to be indicative of how soon it's going to explode. I'm going to tell you right now, as soon as the temperatures warm up, we're in trouble. And we're in trouble now, obviously. But could that alter the climate of the entire Earth if that exploded and everything just let go at once? Because that tube could fill up to be just like an enormous tire tube. I'd like to see where the rumbling's going on, and there's a lot we could learn by looking at this a little closer, I think. All right, so before we go back to Google Earth, we're going to be looking at Spurr up here. And I told you what I feel about this. That is just, I think it's a ticking time bomb to my way of thinking now. Originally I thought it was Spurr. But now, as I was talking to him, one went off over here. And I don't know. I just don't know. So we're going to dig in here deep. All right, and this is Spurr right up here. Right. And it dumps its contents here and here. Spurr is this side. This is the explosive side. Poop, when it rots, it decomposes, it expands, it explodes. That is a pooper. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's what it is. And that right there is poop. If you follow this right back up, you get right back up to Spurr, the top of the mountain here. Now look at this stuff. This is digestive juices and all kinds of who knows what going on here. All right, just look at it. You know, it's hard to think that a geologist would look at this and say, oh yeah, that's just natural runoff. This is body chemistry. When you see these colors, it indicates a secretion of something, all right, or a different material within a different bodily organ, or a membrane, or in some cases it's a vein, or an artery, or tendon, or membrane, phosphate layers, fatty acids and lipids, all kinds of absorption things. And right there is the sphincter muscle that pinches and for fluids coming out of the fluid side of this cloaca. And right here, most anal ducts, and they have little fluids that are reabsorbed normally, or sometimes spit in. This looks like a reabsorber to me. But between these two, they would pinch in here to keep this from flowing, so there's no leakage. You see the green here? That is exceptional greenery. Exceptional. And you know, we're mud fossil people, we understand what we're seeing. We're seeing the transitions. These are transition zones. And this appears to be melting very quickly. And as it does, you're going to get eruptions. Now, we might follow Mount Spurr back. Don't forget, the two of them come together. That's what a cloaca does. The two of them come together and then they feed out through one duct out into in this case, Cook Inlet, which is into the ocean. Now, if we look here, I know it sounds outrageously crazy, but sometimes outrageously crazy is reality, and in this case, that's the case. Now, you see the different colors here? That's Google Earth. Don't worry about that. It means nothing. Look at the colors where you can see them. They overlay this and overlay that, but these are very well obvious. You can see the colors here. Extreme green. This is brown, boom, 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 boom. I would say more than likely each one of those was a poop event of some sort. And then it would end up coming out here and coming down through this area here to join with the urine side. That's how you have to think about it, and it's just what it is. So we're going to go back from Mount Spurr, the brown stuff, and it comes right up to here. You see the brown stuff? And again, they overlap the shots, but you can easily see it. You see it? They're taken probably 2 different times of the year or something like that. And it comes up like this. And this is the spur side, goes up here. It goes up here, through this whole crater area, up here to Spurr. It's hard to see in this picture, but this is where we are right here, Mount Spurr. I can't really get a good shot of the caldera up here. It's right there. I guess that's the best shot right there. I guess it's right here. For some reason, it won't focus in on it well. Let's try a different orientation. It's coming down here and flowing down. For that, I'm certain of. Why I can't get a good shot here. Yeah, see, this is 2021. I guess it's right there. Not a good shot. But now they have some new footage of this current event, which we need to go take a look at. But when that pops, it just goes, and then whatever comes out of here eventually flows down here. And eventually hooks up with this side. And they go together down to Cook Inlet, and they end up going into the ocean here. And again, there's some very, very amazing stuff right here. So here's Spurr coming down. Look at the things that are here on the shore. As I say, there is nothing but biology. Give that a second to settle in. What's that doing there? Look at all that white stuff on one side. What's that doing there? A little line through the whole thing. What's that doing there? That's underwater. Well, that's right on the surface. Actually, they're showing this elevation 0 meters everywhere. Can't be. That's just not, look at this. Look at how detailed that is when you get way, way, way down in there. Now, that's just a start. This stuff here you'd have to look at close. I understand what it is. I understand what this is. I understand what all this stuff mixing down here. All these things you have to understand what's going on in the digestive system of a creature and how it deals with its excretory system. It's a little bit detailed, but it's it's like almost like veterinary medicine, basically. Now look at this. These are abrupt transitions. We all know about these as mudfossil people. Look at that. Now what's going on there? That's an exchange of biology through these little tubes. Now whether they're discharging them out there or whether they're absorbing them in, I don't know. Could go both ways. So here we go again. Look at this. I mean, somebody can explain this. I'd like to hear an explanation. And like I say, I try to go to the USGS there and ask them what they think. Boy, what the hell is that? Look at that. It looks like big nails. Anyway, I don't know what to think anymore. There's just so much to look at. And this whole area is like that. Look, there's another one over here. It's got the same vascular network. Those are some kind of blood vessels or plant things or something. I don't know. I would say this is I know it's a red-blooded creature because at Crowley Lake you can see it. Now there's other excretions here I can't account for. I don't know about this. Something's going on here. these two things come down, and there's a lot of activity going on here. What it is, I don't know. There's mixing and twisting and jiggling and all kind of things going on in here. What's going on? Je ne sais pas. There's some chemistry going on, I can tell you that. You know, we understand this stuff to some degree. You know, is this like something clogged up here? Or is there something, it looks like it's clogged up and it's festering in this area. It should be flowing nice and smooth like that. And where it clogs up, they fester up and they get really nasty. I've seen that a number of times. But whatever it is, it's supposed to be dumping that stuff out. This side here is not bad. It's nice and clean. That's usually what happens. One side goes really bad, like this side, and there's always two sides. And they might be designed to have two sides because one of them usually gets clogged up. And that's clogged up. I'm going to tell you right now, as far as I can tell right there, that is clogged up. And I have seen this a number of times. It's not the first time. And in places you would never, ever, ever expect. And they're highly infected, basically. This I don't think is infected, but it might be. You see that? It's clogging up. This one here is not flowing freely, so where all the debris is just being flushed out. And what that debris is from, I don't know. But this side is. Now whether it opened a new front to get out of there, I don't know. But what you would expect for discharge would be like this. You just keep going and going and going, and everything's fine, everything's fine. Well, this tried to get around this mess. Something happened here to break through that wall. You see it? And all the fluid now enters into here. And I would imagine this is like infected. And then what's left over tries to run back out and still gets caught up in here. So this whole side is not doing well. This side here is doing okay. You know, it might be getting a little clogged up down here, but it doesn't look bad. Anyway, this you can go on for days, and I do, looking at this stuff. But the point I'm going to try to drive home right now is, let's twist this around where it makes sense again. All right, here's a pincher. As far as I can determine, this entire thing, that ridge, is literally the tube. It brings all that stuff down, and it must be the tube going this way, because this side you don't see any volcanoes on. And here's a little wrinkle thing where it pockets back in here. So the venom has to go this way, and I don't know whether it just keeps going and it comes back, whatever. And why it's not out here, I don't know. I would have expected it to be here too, but, and don't forget, this is like the wrinkle stuff. When this comes back, that would stretch, and that would be the muscle, because right now it's pulled, basically. It's in a reach, you know, pinched in. It would open up, this would stretch, this would come back in according to that pin, and the whole thing would settle into this cradle. There is no other possibility that I can see that all of that stuff would fit together perfectly in that specific way. It's just impossible. It's just the odds are against all odds, and that's all I got to say. So take a look at this now. It's not just an empty space. pay attention to this place. All of those are of active volcanoes. Every one of these is an active volcano and more. There's big ones, there's little ones. All of this stuff is nothing but severe toxic chemistry. All the way back up to Spurr. So we know we need to make this toxin, and we know if it's way back up here, which we can see that it does, it comes right up back up to here. All of this chemistry is going on here. More chemistry here. When you see these colored lakes and so forth, tons of chemistry up here. Tons of chemistry up here. Is that chemistry to spit out to Spurr? I don't think so. I think this chemistry right in this area here, if this is the area they're talking about, and I don't think it is, I think they're talking about being up here, which would indicate more likely it would be Spurr. But if it's down, there's a lot of activity in here, that's, I believe, the chemical factory that creates the toxin. Right up in here. How far up? Is it all the way up to here? It might be. It might be. Maybe it's being manufactured up here in this area. If it is, and they're getting shallow earthquakes, it could be because it needs to get more juice down into the venom ducts. And in that case, Spurr would not be an imminent threat. It would be more the venom ducts that would be the threat. But as you can see, it would be silly to think that this is not something biological. You see what I'm saying? Now, what does that service? I'm starting to think it's the servicers for here. All right, let's back up and think about this for a minute. Let me just get it organized, and so I make a better presentation. Hold on. All right, this is very, very hard to put together. I am not a reptilian anatomist, and I have no idea what I'm looking at, to be honest with you, but I do know I'm looking at biology. That is an abrupt transition, and whatever's feeding this into these little digesters or whatever they are, it's not just a glacial runoff. You see this? I believe this is the digestive system up here. This whole thing, you see it all connected together. Whenever you see these things move, going together like that with a crease in the middle of them, they're connected. Now what is this doing over here? Let's take a look at this, which is more biology. It's quite apparent if you give yourself a second and think about it, and just look at it. Look at all these things. All right, something is going on here where I would think this is something to do with the digestion, maybe I don't think respiration at the other end. This is all digestion up in here, to my way of thinking. And I know physics girl was up in here somewhere in a giant, what they call an anus, which she was up in a digestive tube. And these are all digestion in this area. And it came over here, comes over here, and flushes out down through Spurr, which is here. So I would say up into this area here is Spurr's digestion. But back here, I think all of this stuff is not for Spurr's digestion, but it is using parts of that stuff and taking it over here to make the toxins. I think it's using Spurr's digestion to make the toxins right here, which service this whole thing right here. All right, just like you use your own digestion to service and make food and stuff, and whatever we have to make, this is extracting it. I think now, this is what I believe now. This is an extraction unit. Now, where is the earthquakes happening? They said north of Spurr, which would be up here. That's the stomach of Spurr, to my way of thinking, or something in a digestive tract that leads down here and then ends up flushing down into this system here and coming out through here or through here. But this, I think, flushes down into here and it extracts it and brings it over to some kind of organ over here that is using that exotic chemistry to create the toxins. Look at that. How can this be denied? Look at that. My God. Yikes. Isn't that something? Wow. That is, that's where the brew is being brewed, right here. All these lakes mean, these different colors are different transition metals working with other different chemistry to make a very, very noxious brew, which is what these things did. They made some nasty, nasty, nasty chemistry. And it takes chemistry to make chemistry, and these are different. Every different color is a different type of chemistry. And look at this. Look at the blue right here working with this green, right next to each other. Somehow they're swishing together with the chemistry. This takes a while to do. You have to wait for this thing to settle in. But there's no sense in just looking at these things in high detail at this moment, because it's very easy for you to see if you. Okay, this would be really interesting to see what's going on in this area in Fox. This is Dr. Amanda Barker, and she's in Fox, Alaska, with Physics Girl. Unfortunately, Physics Girl has been sick for a couple of years now after having COVID. And as of I saw January 2025, she's still bedridden in terrible condition. You know, I would look into gut bacteria myself, but I can't make any recommendations of anything. If it was me, I would look into the gut bacteria and so forth. Now, this is, they went down inside this cave, which is literally an intestine, I believe. All right, I'm going to just let it play. I'm going to put on the captions, and she's going to be talking about this underground place up in Alaska and Fox, which is just outside of Anchorage to the side, which would be the digestive area. That's my saying. Listen.
Like the newer, but not in a bad way.
In a bad way. A week after we got home, I randomly texted Levi, "The tunnel smells like dog poop." That's what the smell is. It suddenly occurred to me because I was unpacking, and the wool long underwear that you have to wear in Alaskan winters still reeked like the tunnel. Levi didn't text me back.
It looks alien somehow. I know, I love it. This is the only one in the world.
This is the only permafrost tunnel in the world, which begs the question, what's permafrost?
So permafrost by definition is any part of the subsurface that is permanently frozen for 2 years or more.
All right, let me just make a mention of what you're seeing in the background here. What's that? That is the digestive area. They said it smelled like dog poop. And she said, yes, in a very bad way. Now, she was very healthy at this point. That's not her. This is the doctor person that's in charge up here. But they're, you know, they're in the digestive system there.
Okay, so every floor in this tunnel, every wall, all the soil, the rocks.
All right, let's look at this better. I'm going to take the captions off so we can see everything. These are layers of tissue. We know this. We're mudfossil people. We understand this. And this is, I believe, in probably an intestine.
Roots, plants, everywhere you look is
Plants everywhere you look. That's what happens in digestion. Your bacteria makes things literally grow.
like a permanent freezer. And in fact, the dirt here...
Exactly, just like a permanent freezer. It's warming up. As it warms up, those plants are going to grow more and more and more, and you're going to get a ton of methane gases as things rot and so forth. But we all know what these little layers are. And I don't know what whether they put these round holes in there or not, but you would find them inside.
Has been frozen since the last ice age. More on that in a bit. But first, I want to explore how this Cold War tunnel became an...
Look. It's Cold War tunnel. They found it and they decided, well, we'll use it.
Urgent research lab. How permafrost is related to a mysterious anthrax outbreak in Russia. How a local house collapsing nearby is connected to all of this. And why billionaires are throwing millions at permafrost science. If none of that piques your interest and you were just looking for a video about frozen dirt, well, you found the right video too. So firstly, why did...
All right, I'm just going to cut it at this, and it's a tragic situation. I hope she gets better. But again, you know, I don't think it had anything to do with this cave. She caught COVID, and like I say, you can look it up, physics girl and her health. And her husband posts regularly about how she's doing, and it hasn't been good. So, but all of that relates to bacteria, and it relates to gut bacteria. And she was in the gut of another creature. Now, I don't think that is what's harming her, but who knows? I can't say. But I can say that almost all invasion of your body and extended chronic diseases are linked to enzymes being too many or too little, and that's always linked to bacteria, whether you have good bacteria, bad bacteria, too much or too little, whichever. But the only way you can find that out is to check what's in the gut bacteria, the microbiome. So anyway, that's Diana. It was fabulous. I used to watch her all the time, and it's been a couple of years now. She hasn't done anything. Now you saw Diana. She was up here in a cave, which is where the poop was. And I say, yes, that's the digestive system that would have the poop in it, and all that stuff gets digested in here. This could be intestines or whatever, and it gets digested and brings it over the spur in this area. Starting here is my theory, is that this extracts a lot of the stuff that Spur's gut is creating. All right, and then it extracts it off and sends it out to the pincher. So this is the killer chemistry. Over to about here, I would say, is the stuff that's where your spur poops. Somewhere over here. And this stuff here is extracting. And this is the chemistry set right here that creates the venom. Now, as that warms up, I'm going to tell you right now, we're in for something. This is mile deep, thick. How big is the tube? Who knows? It's got to be gigantic. It's well, no, way more than a mile thick. Hold on a second. All right, what's going on here is these are about 1,000 meters, something like that, above sea level. So that's not quite a mile. When you come down from here, where you got 1,000 and such, 600 and so forth, you come over to here, you're down below the water level 106 meters. 106 meters, that's not much. All the way over to this edge right here, which is now 263. It drops a little off. 106, 145, 195, 101, 103, 140, 150. And then over to here, minus 5,267 meters. That's 3 miles from here to here, 3 miles down. Now, the tube that's in here presenting the venom has to be probably close to a mile thick, I would think. You got 3 miles deep, and it probably goes deeper than that in there. So we got at least 3 miles of the thickness of the stem. And the tube is going to be pretty good size. Let's see how deep it is from here down. This is it's almost in the body proper, really. There's still a pretty good chunk of the body in this area. Out here is just the pincher. Let's see how deep this thickness is. All right, so we got 3 miles at least from here down. From here, what do we got? We got this is basically sea level, just barely. Up here we got minus 500 meters, minus 300 meters. Where are we down here? Minus 5,900. Again, that's 3 miles deep. From up here, which is like zero-ish, down here is 6,000 meters deep. We still got a very, very thick, pincher coming out here. Now what about over here? And don't forget, I say that this tube is the tube that runs all that venom right down that. Just pay attention to what you see here. It's just extremely obvious. These are where it's erupting. And why is it erupting? Well, it's popping out of its own skin. And why is it doing that? It's corrosive. It's reactive. It's venomous. It's nasty. And as it warms up and the tissues around it are more susceptible to being invaded, it will invade. What does that mean? It will come, and all of a sudden, this whole thing could go off like one big gigantic bomb, the whole thing at once. Who knows? You can't rule that out. Because it's the whole thing is one big active volcanic system. Right now, it's just happening. Now, what about here? How thick is it from here down? And don't forget, that is, again, this is the tube, and that is, again, the tube. You can see it right there. That's the tube. Now, how thick is that? From here, it's minus 900 meters. Over here, it's minus 3,700 meters. So that's 3,000 meters is, whatever, it's pretty deep. So by the time you get out to here, you got minus 600 meters. Over here, you got minus 3,800 meters. That's a lot, 3,200 meters. All right, that's about 9,000, 10,000 feet. That's almost 2 miles thick. And then at the pincher, it gets really, this is minus 3,200, and this is minus 3,700. It pinches right down to nothing, because that's what a needle does. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the injection has to go right through here. Now, would it come out the very end? It appears to. Because that's where you're seeing this little driplet squirting out. Right off the very tip. So I would say that is is like a syringe there, the tip of a syringe. And it might have even pulsed. It's not out of the question. So that's a strange situation, my friends. That is Scorp-Zilla. Now she's down at Fox. It was where she was, right here. And I say that is, yes, that would be the digestive system, intestines, whatever, something in there. She was right where they were, I'm sure it was intestines, because you could see the stuff really rotting off the walls. Now, then you come up to Spurr, which is way over here. So all of that is down here. That's digestive. Then you get into the Scorp-Zilla stuff that makes the chemistry for death. And here it is right there. I've shown it over and over. But you got to see it and keep your mind on it and think about it. Look at that. All right. It's quite obvious, but it just takes a long time of looking and thinking and understanding and paying attention to the details. And that is what feeds the Scorp-Zilla pincher. And right now, I think this is the reactive part. I think it's the chemistry that's being created for this that's creating the shaking vibrations in the Earth's surface right now. Not necessarily Spurr ready to pop. Could be wrong, but who knows? All right, look at this. There's like 40 active volcanoes at least coming out towards the pincher. And here's Spurr right up here, which is the rectum, and all that is the digestive system up there. Coming down here is all the venom. And that's all festering now. They're active volcanoes in the Aleutian chain. She counts about 40 of them. You see this? I discovered this layer in 2015 doing my mud fossils. I found a lot of the stuff had eroded the skin, which is above, down to this layer, or at least very close. And then this layer was unknown. And then there was all this layer with all these little balls. And then you got into muscle, which is a fibrous tissue or tendon or whatever. But this actually erodes into clay, all right, mud. Skin turns into mud. And they say, meet your interstitium, a newfound organ. In 2018, there was this article about this layer that nobody knew about. And I could see this in my mud fossils, as I have shown you, or will show you for sure. But the balls are literally everywhere on the Earth. Now, where things were frozen quickly after the Great Flood, they didn't deteriorate whatsoever. So what happens is now, as they are thawing out, the fleshy stuff is being absorbed, which it would normally be, and these balls, which still have a lot of nutrition in them because they're still fleshy, they didn't erode like the Moki marbles and turn to like stone. They are still frozen, like frozen meat. And now they're being fed on by a bacteria that was living in the creature when the creature died. And you can say, how can I possibly tell that? Well, I show you how. You see all of these little fibers, these little balls? Up here is your skin. It erodes away and turns into clay. Very erosive, no problem whatsoever. Then you get to this layer. That's the fascia. That protected everything underneath. And that's why my mud fossils were created. This is collagen. So it lets stuff come in through that membrane and stabilize what was inside during the conditions of the Great Flood, which I have explained hundreds of times. I'm not going to do it again now. What are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at these balls up in Alaska as they thaw out. And we're going to see that every single one of them has the same moss growing on it. Because in us, we also have the same bacteria growing on all the little balls here in us. We have thousands and thousands of species of bacteria. And some of it is growing on the balls in Alaska as they thaw out. I'll show you right now. All right, these are those balls. Every single one of them, 100%, has these exact same moss growing on it. And there is a ton of them. They're everywhere. Because that's just where it's everywhere. The body of the creature was everywhere because it's just gigantic. So why are we seeing these balls here all with all that green moss growing on it? They don't have any roots. They are rooted into the ball. They're not rooted anywhere else. They are rooted into the ball, which still has blood on it. And here's what they look like. There's a ball in there, which I don't know why they don't understand this. There's a ball in there. It's quite easy to understand. And the roots are going into this. Now, they say they all go into, like a herd of them, they move. Well, I can understand that. As they grow, they seem to go this way. I would say they're turning this way. You see how this seems to be turned up? I believe they roll this way and they become almost like dormant underneath here, and then they come back up into the sunlight and they just keep going around and around, heading whatever direction the sun drags them in. But that is the Moki marbles. After they get eaten, everything, there's just nothing more than a hard rock, which was the antithesis of those skin anchors. All right, this is a very rudimentary shot showing these little black dots are the anchors. Those are the balls, the Moki marbles. All right, these are bags of fluid. This floppy stuff is collagen. This stuff here is keratin, which is it's tough. It's almost like the spline on a feather here. And then this stuff here is real floppy. They all work together in different layers of strength. Now, this right here is the Moki marbles, and those are the little anchors which are here. But this is really what's in your body. And all of these little fibers here are what's inside the skin. They don't show, you don't see it. Here it is, but there's a million fibers. There's hundreds, many hundreds in that layer. You just never saw them, see it? Now, then you get to here, which is that. And you're into all these balls. Now, what else? This is how big it is on Earth. This is in the United Kingdom. And that is the skin. This is the flesh right underneath with all the ball and anchors. It's washed away and it just keeps receding in and caving down, and then the fleshy stuff becomes mud, which it is. The balls become they're living little colonies of moss, and they're just not green because this is salt water. Moss in the fresh water, it becomes extremely green. Now, once all that stuff is eaten and there's no more food, they end up with this. They're just balls. They're all over the earth. They're everywhere. They have no explanation for them, so they just ignore them like they don't exist. They call them concretions. Those aren't concretions. How did that happen? Those are from this right here. And it's eroded everything. And on the edges where it swells down, there's literally slabs of mud down there with these embedded in them, because that was the skin as it eroded away. Okay, I know I've been in a lot of different places, but we're back to... Hello. Okay, my fabulous, outstanding friends, a lot of interruptions. I'm going to probably wrap it up with this. Again, these are veins. They can suck up little bits of oxygen so they can keep smoldering for a million zillion years. Now, I'm just going to finish up with this. Listen.
Smoke seeping from long cracks in the soil. Yellow-white crystalline deposits crust the ground. Not ash from flames, but minerals like sulfur, gypsum, and alum that have steamed out.
And, of course, iron, or the red is iron.
Of the burning coal and condensed at the surface. The air carries a faint smell of sulfur.
Sulfur, as I told you, is the bump up from phosphorus into sulfur as the heat and combustion force particles in, bring it past stable, and it jumps up to sulfur. I showed that quite obviously in the isotope
Reminiscent of
chart.
burnt matches, signalling the presence of subterranean fire. The landscape itself bears scars. Trees and grasses vanish in the immediate vicinity of the fire's current location. The soil bleached and reddened by heat. The ground has a buckled, uneven look, where it has sagged into voids left by burnt-out coal or been heaved by the expansion of baked rocks. It is a scene at once ordinary in appearance and utterly unique. An ecosystem overturned by a fire that moves unseen below.
I'm sure a lot of this is not real footage. Some of it is, but they're just showing you something to make it look spectacular, basically.
A slow rearrangement of Earth, driven by heat from within. Despite its destructive force, the burning mountain fire advances with glacial patience. As the coal is consumed, the fire front inches forward, feeding on fresh fuel. It creeps southward at about 1 meter per year.
A meter per year. And the reason is it's only getting just the tiniest amount of oxygen coming through those arterial wall filters, basically. So it's just getting enough to stay smoldering. A meter a year, you'd think it would be really rocking. Well, it's not gonna, because it's a vein, and it's just gonna smolder.